Good afternoon. It's Pop again, Dennis Murray. Today is Popcast 58, and it's called Nature's Wisdom, Part 8. I'm pretty excited. Felt like yesterday and the day before, I reached a much better understanding of what I've been trying to present, and it gives me an opportunity to make a practical application of how to change the world. I didn't want what I've been talking about to be Pollyanna talk. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if people were nicer to each other? What a wonderful world it would be, etc. Not my style, not my thing. Other people do that sort of thing and they don't need me to help. What I wanted to do was to show what our psychology is cueing us to do so that hasn't been appreciated as fully as it should be, so we can get a, a practical wisdom for how we can change the world more to our liking. And so it starts with this. What is it that you want from the world that you're not getting now? What's missing? And not what's missing in your life, but what's missing in your relationship to other people in the world. And I think that we could go on and on and on about what's missing, but today I'm trying to focus down here with a short statement. Um, and in my opinion, the critical thing that's missing is hope. Our fundamental feeling at the moment about our great divide is hopelessness. We don't have any real hope we're ever going to get out of this mess. And we've learned recently enough that when we threw the bastards out, the next set of bastards was no more effective than the last set. And so we threw them out too, and then brought back a different version of the former, and then threw them out and brought back a new version of the other guy. And now we're getting ready to throw the current version out and try again. Uh, Nobody really thinks that anything is ever going to get better. That's called hopelessness. And it really, really, really is deadly for us. Our psychology has evolved to make us need hope. It's like food for our psychology. Really, it's not overreaching to say it's food for our souls. Not getting into religious notions about whether our souls have eternal life, but saying that the word soul is a loaded, powerful statement to describe what goes on inside us. Our sense of being alive, our sense of gratitude, our sense of identification as I'm me. Um, there's no other better word than soul for that. Uh, and we'll all find out in due time whether the soul is eternal. In my case, I'll find out a little sooner than you. And actually, I'm kind of curious. And I'm sort of hopeful. Um, Regardless, okay, let's get back to work here today. But the point is really just that we haven't appreciated the degree to which we have to have hope. We cannot thrive in a world that the situation feels hopeless in, such as the world we're in now. And it's not just our country, it's not just our particular leaders or the ones we had the last time or the time before that. Um, Look around the world. Every country is in this situation where there's a tremendous similar problem that all of the social arrangements are in disarray. Everyone is unhappy with the social arrangements, and nobody seems to have any good way forward. Now, the last thing I'm doing is proposing a particular set of social arrangements. What I'm talking about is What we really want is to be in a situation of hopefulness. That's much more important than any particular social arrangements. We want to be in a hopeful relation to each other. It gives us a sense of hope. We want to be in a fruitful relation to each other, and the fruitfulness depends on the hopefulness. You want to be fruitful, you better have hope. You want to have hope, you've got to live it. Having hope doesn't work if it's not lived. When you live it, it grows. When you don't live it, it becomes moribund, and you'll become in due time hopeless. And the the thing that we most want is a situation where all of the social arrangement problems are our shared problems, and that we're working with people, with everybody, except for the people that just are so filled with hate they don't want to accept the gift of life. They don't want to accept the gift of each other. They've turned away from their own interior self and from other people. So those people are always going to be out there. But we want the rest of us to be in a fruitful relation. We want to have a feeling that we understand that all of these social relation problems, all of these social arrangement problems are normal. They'll always be with us. If not in this form, then that form. It's always health care. It's always dealing with poverty. It's always housing. It's always the same sort of things about the complications of dealing with so many people in close proximity when each of us individually is so complex, and together we're complexity squared. That's a normal situation in life. The wonderful situation is when we are we're extending hope that when let me phrase this best. When we have managed to reach a state where we're sharing hope with others, that we can in fact address these problems, then the fact that we're sharing hope means that we've done what's most important. We've achieved a fruitful relation. We're living the gift of each other, which is what hope was for in the first place. And all it takes to live the gift of each other is not to solve all these problems, because they're never going to be solved. They'll always be here in one form or another, but to face them and to do as best we can to work out, to negotiate a compromise where we respect that people are wildly in disagreement and will continue to be wildly in disagreement. And that for the most part, like any good compromise, most people are going to feel, unsatisfied with it, somewhat unhappy about it. Oh, that's not really quite good enough. That's the normal state of a good compromise. But why is compromise a thing of integrity instead of, some kind of person with no spine, no principles, way out? Well, it's a thing of integrity because you achieve the thing that you really want by compromise. What you really want is to be in fruitful relation to each other. You want to be living the gift of each other. You want to be, and that's what hope is for. So when you make the first step, here's the practical way. So now we know what we want. How do we get it? What's the practical way? Why is this not Pollyanna talk? Because the practical way is very simple. In your personal life and in our political life, you make the first step towards the other. You hope that he will reciprocate with a step back to you. When he does, then the miracle of the expanding middle occurs, and you are both now sharing hope that between you, you can reasonably address this year's version of the eternal problems of social arrangements. But In the moment, you have achieved fruitful relation with each other. You have turned the problems from devastating disputes into a common problem that you both feel like you can address together. And of course, you'll compromise because you still don't agree. It's still a problem. There's those that feel the poor should be helped a lot more, and those that feel they shouldn't be. There's those that think medical care needs to be more elaborate and shared with all, and those that think differently for a variety of reasons, including cost. I'm essentially I'm old, and it costs quite a lot of money for a society to keep me alive, and some of my health problems are contributed to by my poor eating habits and poor exercise habits. So, at some point, it seems reasonable to think, well, gee, aren't all these old people that are costing us a fortune to keep alive? Don't we need to reconsider how much medical resources we want to devote to them? But it's a small point I'm trying to make, that these points are forever with us. They don't go away. However you work at them now, they're still there next year. And that, seeing that is a total change of context that moves the problem from some incredible dispute with an evil, hateful person who disagrees with you about social arrangements to, oh, well, all of us are working together with this year's version of the problems, knowing full well that it's normal, that these problems exist, and that all we can do is address them. And in so doing, we share the hope that we're able to do that we're able to work together on these problems, reach some kind of a compromise that involves respecting our differences, and thereby enjoy the gift of each other. We're using hope as it was intended to be used to help us live the gift of each other, bring it to life, and refresh our hopes in the prospect. Hope is somewhat like the miracle of the loaves and the fishes. The more you use it, the more it grows. It's not like a zero-sum resource, something like oil, and when it's all gone, it's all gone. It's not like food in the sense, typically, when you eat your food, you can't have your cake anymore. But truly, it is somewhat like the miracle of the loaves and fishes. There's a boundless, endless supply of it if you use it. If you let it go moribund, then it's said by the poets that hope springs eternal in the human breast. But not if you don't use it. If enough people find themselves hopeless for a very long period of time on a huge scale, our hope could in fact stop working for us. And our entire species is dependent on hope, where we've evolved to have it and to use it. And since we became aware of our own death and of our own hate and of our necessity to work and of the unfairness that seems to occur in the universe, we became all the more dependent on not just our own hope, but our hope being shared, because that sharing gives us the extra hope we need to be able to face those things: death, hate, necessity, and unfairness. So, the poet's right, it springs eternal, but you better put it to use or the spring is going to dry up. And if we don't have hope, we can't survive. We are not individuals alone. We're individuals with an incredible aspect of sociability. We need each other, and we need to be in hopeful relation to each other. We need to break out of this mess we're in. And the practical way to do that is you make the first step towards the other in the hope that he'll or she'll reciprocate. And so then, if you do that and they reciprocate, then you're living your hope and it grows, and you're sharing hope with them, And that's an incredible moment in which you have now achieved our highest ambition to be living the gift of each other. You're now living the gifts you were given, and that is the most sincere thanks you can have for the gift of life and the gift of each other. Congratulations. You just achieved your highest ambitions. What I'm trying to help you to do is see, well, I'm trying to help you to do, I mean, that's arrogant. Let me, you know, rephrase that for me in your minds. What I'm offering is that I see a way to appreciate that your highest ambitions uh, are, have not been noticed and not been given enough attention in our public discussion about what we want from each other, what we want from life, and how we go about getting it. And so it's my ambition to change that, to bring to the public discussion what I think of practical things that make a big damn difference. And that is, you can change the world by changing your life because you can move towards the other in the hope that they'll reciprocate. And if they do, you'll achieve this wonderful moment where you're living the gift of each other. You're using your hope as it was intended to be used. But nature is both abundant and consequential. There's always darkness as well as light. So what happens if they don't reciprocate? Well, that's going to, honestly, you won't like the answer. But we're going to do that tomorrow. And there's a more practicality for tomorrow as well, and that is that how do we apply this in politics? And I have a story about abusing the power of the gavel from my personal experience, and we'll work that tomorrow. So there's a lot more here. I just want to finish with a quick sum. Nourish yourself by living hope. It's the food of our souls, and it's the emotion necessary to create the expanding middle. Troubles are normal, and we thrive when we face them together. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow. Maybe I'll preach a little less. I'm not promising. Bye bye. Take care.